Hello again. This is week 2, and I'm going to continue my story. And I left you hanging with my friend Lucky, some 9, and his family, and his object called a Krugemite. Now, obviously, this was an object that he worshipped. It was very important to him, and it turns out it was very important to his family. And I will tell you more about that later. But you may listen to that story and listen to the fact that he worships an object like that and think, oh man, that is just something so foreign, so off the wall, just something that you would never come into contact with. Well, this is something called animism. And I will let you in on part of the story in that he was talking about the object and using the personal pronouns, that there was a spirit entity associated with the object. So it wasn't just the object. And you see objects of worship all over the world. You could see Buddhas sitting, Buddhas laying. You can see all sorts of idols and different altars all over the world if you look at the worship of different religions all over the world. This was an unusual object that I had never seen before. But in considering animism, you need to know about this very foundational religious affiliation and worldview and values, because oddly enough, it is very pervasive across the world. This is not just some random idea in the boonies of Cambodia. It is all over the world. You can find animism. So the people in Cambodia were Buddhists, but they're folk Buddhists. They really did not know the doctrines of Buddhism. If I asked a regular person on the street, what are the noble truths and the fourfold path? I forget now. the 7 noble truths and the fourfold path and all those things. They don't know. They don't know those things. But they do know about the spirit world. They do know about animism. They do have objects that they worship. They venerate the spirits of their ancestors. Now, this is worldwide. If you have stayed in America, you may have never encountered animistic beliefs, worldview, values. But if you were going to communicate interculturally across cultural lines, you are going to come into contact with animism. I can guarantee you that. There's folk Buddhism, there's folk Islam, there's folk whatever, with an underlying animistic worldview of veneration of spirits, fear of the spirit world. It is in America as well. It is in Western nations as well. You can find people who will, the animistic tendencies like reading your horoscope or just being afraid of spirits. It's not just limited in America to movies like The Exorcist. That's what's been seen in this culture, in Western culture that we see. That is not always the way animism or worship of spirits manifests itself across the world. So today I just want to put you on the alert, your antennas up, to look for animism around you, to look for animism when you communicate across cultures. When you go into a Chinese restaurant, look at where the altar is. Look at what's on the altar. What are the objects? And why is that altar there? Why? What is going on? Who are they worshiping? Who are they afraid of? Who are they venerating? Once you are attuned to that, especially in America, maybe in a Chinese restaurant or some other location, Korean restaurant maybe, not all Korean restaurants, but different places, look for the different objects that have meaning. And if you're involved in intercultural communications and you want to get to the values and the beliefs that are underneath what you can see, you'll have to have a conversation about it. You'll have to talk about it. And I was also a language coach on the field, a language and culture coach, and I've heard many people have conversations about these sorts of things to try to enter into a gospel conversation. I remember distinctly one time listening to two people talk, a recording. This was a language recording. The missionary that was talking was saying words, and I understood what she meant. She was talking about God, the Creator God, who made the heavens and the earth. Same words in Khmer, when you're talking about God in the third person, pre'ong. The other person was Buddhist mindset. Every time she said pre'ong, she thought God, they thought Buddha. And I could, this conversation, this mismatch of the miscommunication and not getting across the message. She was not getting across the message that she wanted to get across. She thought she was by talking about God, about Pre'ong. But every time they heard the word Pre'ong, they thought of Buddha. And so there's language implications there, and I will talk about that in a few moments. And yeah, think about that when you're communicating and you want to get to the gospel. There's a layer there, and you know, when you look at that iceberg diagram, there's a layer there that's so underneath the surface, but it's so foundational that holds up everything, the whole belief, worldview, everything you can see. And it's animism in many, many, many cultures across the world. So keep animism on your radar.